Greetings, everyone. Today, I'm live streaming to you about the situation involving Toon Critic Y2K. He was recently outed that Toon is a sexual predator after discovering he was privately messaging a then 14-year-old girl from the Philippines. He had been doing this for over a year. Regardless of age of consent there, it's still a crime here in the United States. As of this recording, there is no word of whether or not he's facing the consequences via law enforcement. Tips have been sent to both the FBI and his local police department on his behavior. Recently, there have been multiple videos talking about Toon's behavior, from first-hand accounts of other sexual deviancy to outright slander campaigns putting the blame on others for not reporting his behavior sooner. Some put their own spin on it, completely missing the point or even going off topic. There will be none of that. Our goal is to inform from first-hand accounts of what transpired. From receiving the first pieces of evidence to informing the authorities. This is the Brony Analysis community breaking the silence. I'm the voice of reason. Joining me today are four people who were also close to Toon as well as the victim. Introducing Kichi FIM.
Well, okay then.
Okay. Hi, stream.
Irish John.
Hello.
Solar Flare.
Hey, what's going on?
And Umbra.
What's up?
Now, before we get started, there is one more thing I want everyone currently watching this to do. Listen. We were there when we first received this information. If you want to stick around for the whole thing, we will answer questions afterwards pertaining to this issue at hand. So, with all the prefaces squared away, let's get started. First question that needs to be answered. How did we first receive this information? Kichi, you're the best person to ask about this.
Okay. So, me personally, I was contacted by British Ninja. He essentially came to me and said that he had poked the victim, I'm going to leave her name out of it, to see where she had been, why she had been, so withdrawn lately. She had been more or less away from the Domain Toon Critic Skype group for a while. She used to be very active, and slowly she started drawing away. The way Toon Critic explained it to us was that she wanted to speak with him and that he was helping her out with her depression, and we didn't really question it. We really didn't have any reason to. So Ninja told me that after encouraging her to tell him about it, she sent him a long statement detailing that she and Toon Critic had been in a sexual roleplay relationship for the past year. And it only had ended when she decided that what she was doing was stupid and she blocked Toon Critic. Obviously, Ninja was very shocked at what happened, and he asked her for screenshots. According to British Ninja, he found this out around Christmas, and he didn't want to come out with it just that time because he needed time to gather the evidence before telling everyone what was going on. Plus, he didn't want to put a damper on everyone's Christmas, and a lot of other stuff was going on. So while he was waiting for the evidence to be compiled, he, concluded, business as usual. He was the only one that knew. I found out, let's see, what's today?
The 31st.
I found out maybe a couple of weeks ago from British Ninja, and he told me all that happened. And immediately I, asked to see the screenshots too. She had sent him over 500 screenshots and a long statement detailing what had been going on between her and Toon Critic. There was a lot of sexual role play, a lot of emotional manipulation of a young girl who's dealing with severe depression, a lot of saying that he loved her and all these other things. It was really messed up.
Okay, so the next question is what was the approach to informing others, especially those who were close to Toon Critic at the time? I think both Kichi and Umbra, you can follow up on
Sure.
this.
Do you mind if I start?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I was the third one informed. I believe it was probably right after Kishi. I don't know if it was the same day or not.
It was.
And I went over with them. How are you approaching this? Authorities have been contacted, and I think it was your idea. I don't know if it was all of ours, but the idea was, we would contact each of his closest friends first in that group and go one by one, not as just a means of, that they need to know, but just as time to process, because we did from the start want to contact authorities on this matter. However, we were really just wanting to give people time to process the situation, and even then we still didn't know how we were going to approach it fully. So we started there, and then we moved out to his other friends, people who weren't as close to him. For reference, for a quick thing, I've been friends with him I was friends with him for over 3 years, so I guess that's why I was one of the first people. And then we also based it on how they would emotionally react, because again, this plays into what we'll just talk about later about why we didn't want this to get out early. And we also talked about, and then eventually we reached his co-workers, people who were doing projects with him, like Josh and Dr. Wolf and people like that, because those were the people that were like, look, you don't want to associate with this person anymore.
Yeah, essentially what we were doing, not only did we want to give those closest to him who would be the most devastated time to essentially process the situation, we also wanted to make sure that everyone that Toon Critic was close to or worked closely with was aware, so that he wouldn't be able to get to them first and spin a version of the story that painted him in a better light to manipulate the situation, because we recognize that as what he might do based on things that we may have seen, and just thought that was the best course of action. While we don't know if that was the right thing to do or not, we aren't experienced in this sort of thing. That's just what we thought was the best to do at the time.
All right, actually, that does answer my question about why the informing process was a secret. Next question, I guess I can ask Irish John. Now, again, you were informed later, but what was the range of emotion on display to those who were informed just not even just yourself, but others that you did manage to talk to?
Well, everyone basically just felt betrayed. You know what I mean? You always hear about stuff like this happening to someone else, but when it happens to someone you know, I don't know. I felt really, really angry when I first heard of it. A lot of people, they couldn't believe they had felt betrayed the way they had, that someone they knew so well would do something so heinous and horrendous. That was basically it. Sorry.
Apologies for that. It's all right. Now, I guess Solar, you can answer this. You were in the call with others. At what point did you decide to confront Toon Critic on this matter?
I don't remember the exact day, but I know it was basically shortly after we informed Josh, and he was sort of the level head of the whole thing. He was like, all right, we got to contact the authorities, we got to tip the FBI and all that stuff. And was it later that night or was it the next day?
It was later that night.
Yeah, it was later that night, essentially, that we got 5 or 6 people together, and we just pulled them into a call and said, hey, we know what you're doing, and this is not okay. Like, we can't just sit on this.
Yeah. What follow-up question? This is for everybody. I was not in that call specifically, but what was it like in the call? Specifically, the atmosphere.
Solar's probably the only one that can answer that, since he was in the first call. I can say I had a call with him afterwards.
I was in the call as well.
Okay,
so was John.
Yeah, I was there as well.
Okay, so I'll start with Solar then.
You could cut the tension with a knife. It was, yeah.
All right. Any follow ups?
Uh,
He really didn't seem to care until he found out he was facing consequences. That was the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the part that really just
Like they
just
told him,
put
hey,
the nail in the coffin.
like here's what you've been doing and we know about it. And he's just like, yeah, okay. And
yeah,
I-
I was.
Go ahead.
I was at work at the time, so I wasn't able to actually speak in the call. I could only listen. But I could tell, like, when they initially said, hey, we know what's been going on, we know what you've been doing, he didn't even seem shocked. It seemed like he knew at some point he would get caught with this and had, like, a script prepared of what he was going to say, just knowing he would get away with it. I couldn't, like, I could tell that everyone was really thrown off by how nonchalant he was about it. Like he did not even seem emotional to the slightest until Josh said that people would be disassociating with him.
Mm-hmm.
What instructions were given to Toon about this predatory behavior?
he was told he was to have 24 hours to turn himself into the police. Whether he did or not, we would be informing them 24 hours from that point. They wanted to give him that one chance to show he was sorry, to show that he had learned from all this by turning himself in to the police.
It is definitely, we were definitely going to be turning him in either
Regardless,
way.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we did, and they did tell him that he was going to be turned in regardless of what actions he took. It was just a matter of if he wanted to essentially save his own dignity or something, or or run away.
And I'll answer the question I have. Why did it take so long to inform the authorities? One of the reasons is we didn't know who to contact. We weren't sure if this was going to be a local issue with Chicago police, or because this involves someone from the Philippines, if this is an FBI issue. So we basically did both. The first thing we did was go through the FBI's website. It's the contact for like these sort of internet crimes. It's the Internet Crime Complaint Center, and that was the first thing we did after Toon failed to turn himself in. Once we had all the information down from the victim to us filing it as a third party, once we clicked submit, that was our first instance of informing the authorities. But since we first informed it, we didn't receive any results. So it was recently that we went right to the police and went through their anonymous tip line. And that actually had, from what I've seen, the police line is actually a lot better because you can actually upload more information, as it were.
Yeah, not to mention, there was a period where Ninja went through. He himself went through all 500 of those screenshots, so he could create basically a separate document that acted as an archive to find the most damning evidence. He was the only one who had enough stomach to do it, and it took a while for him to be able to go through all 500 without like breaking his computer. So that also took time for him to be able to make it easier on the authorities to find exactly what they need to find.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And now recently, we had a feeling that this would leak out, and it did. So the question is, how should people proceed now, knowing this information, before the people who knew the most about it? Anyone can speak up about this.
I guess, I mean, I have the more strong thing, and I'm going to say this right now again. I'm not going to be unprofessional about this. I'm just saying I'm a person who is outside the Brony community, and these people are my friends. So this is coming from someone whose opinions may or may not reflect their own. But I was very distraught and very upset, depressed, angry to see not just that it leaked from certain hands is what I'd call it, but that people were taking it without asking the people involved, and that's what made me frustrated. There's two sides to every story. Obviously Zach's side is no longer an issue, but for the people that knew him and knew what was going on and have all the facts, I don't understand why no one came to us and asked us why. I mean, I'm not saying me because nobody really knows me, but like everyone had the opportunity to come to you guys and say, hey, is what they're saying true, rather than constantly saying, oh, you should have done something sooner, blah, 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 because, there's so much more to this than you can understand. There's so much more to this than anyone can understand. Hell, I'm not even sure that everyone in our group of friends still understands everything. But you have to just keep that in mind. It's a lot to go through, and I'm not saying that we're better, that people need to feel sorry for us. No, it's something that happened, and there are people that are also suffering because of this. I'm not trying to equate us to them, but the thing it remains is this. People should have come to us if they wanted to know what was going on. They should have come to us calmly.
And look, I want to tell whoever's watching, essentially my experience with Toon. I've been in the Brony community and the analysis community for like 2-3 years ish. I met Toon early on through FNGR. Now, even back then, I knew that Toon was a fuck up. I knew that there was some shit that happened with Toon. FNGR told me tons of shit. I've heard a lot of stories. And originally, I'll admit, I got into Toon's circle as more or less a spy to see what exactly was going on and what kind of shitty things he was doing behind the scenes. And eventually, as the years went on, I started buying into my own con. I started believing that he was changing and actually trying to get better. And I was like, you know what? I like when people try to become better people. I don't punish people for trying to get better when they're a fuck up. And I was telling people, no, he's been fine. He's been doing better. Hadn't been getting into trouble. And really, he hadn't been. Little did I know that it's because he just got better at hiding shit.
Mhm.
So
Mm-hmm.
while
We all kind of bought into it.
yeah, like while it is true that we should have seen warning signs and all that, the fact of the matter is we either didn't or ignored it. I personally say I dropped the ball. I shouldn't have believed it.
Now, I think the biggest question on everyone's minds, from the people watching this video to the former close friends and to the content creators, how do we move forward? I'll start with you, Kichi. How are you going to move forward from this?
I'll fall back on some advice that a very smart person I know said. Someone doesn't have to be especially smart to be a good liar. And, we know this with Toon. He was an idiot, but he was a very good liar. In terms of getting past it, I am not going to forgive Toon. I'm going to forgive myself for believing Toon. And I'm just going to not forget what happened so that it doesn't repeat in the future. I don't think that just blindly forgiving Toon, that's what got us into the situation in the first place, I think. But I don't think it's something to point fingers at the people that were around Toon. I think it's just a matter of learning and then moving on. You learn from this person that hurt everyone. You learn from your own actions, and you just move on with your life. There's no point in dwelling on anger and sadness and hatred, because that's just going to make you miserable. Toon is off somewhere. He's deleted all of his social media. He's offline. He's being coddled by his parents and whatever bullshit therapist he's probably hired. He'll probably move on to the anime community or the furry community or something.
Oh no, keep him away from me.
Oh
He'll
no.
probably
All right, guys.
but the only thing you can do is learn from your own mistakes and move on with your life. Dwelling on it is not going to help anything. It's not going to help you. It's not going to help any of the victims in the situation. It's just going to make everyone around you and yourself feel shitty.
All right. Solar, how are you? Solar, what about you?
I mean, me personally, I don't really consider myself an analyst because I don't make, analysis videos. I mean, I consider myself a part of the community. I'm friends with a lot of people that are analysts, but me personally, I'm not an analyst. So I guess what I'm going to start doing now that this whole thing has come through, just start looking out for others more, because honestly, the part that I still beat myself up on like consistently is because essentially while this was going down, obviously before I had the knowledge of it, but while this was going down, I was actually dating Mimkage, who was, well, as most of you probably know if you've seen the video, she's suffered through a lot of mental abuse because she, used to date him. And me being friends with the guy, I was just like, well, yeah, he was a douche, but like maybe you should try and forgive him. But I didn't really have any idea how deep that rabbit hole actually went until it all got out there. So I mean,
Yeah, that's another thing. There were so many stories that I heard about until all this came out. Like Jesus Christ.
We won't name names, but the list is plentiful.
And
A lot of
growing.
our friends in
pretty
our
big.
group had stories to tell, and again, we won't be naming names, but they're, when you say that we're not concerning ourselves with, we're not victims, there were victims in our group. So
yeah, plenty. And the main thing about it was just that, I mean, everybody kind of had their own story about what happened with him, but they all sort of kept it to themselves because they assumed he was changing, didn't realize that he was going behind everybody's backs and doing more dumb shit. And then when this tipping point finally came, we just sat back and we're like, all right, so what else did he do? And it all just kind of started spilling forth from there.
Floodgates opened.
Yeah, really. Just we all thought they were isolated incidents, and then wouldn't you know it, it was just a big
No.
old melting pot.
Yeah, it also didn't help that the situation going on in the real world was also happening with Hollywood, with politics. The one thing with music, with Kesha, I don't think there was really anything in terms of sports, but like in pop culture and the real world, this happening and also trickling down to someone we knew did not help the situation.
No. To equate someone you knew for 3 years and then find out that he is just a carbon copy of someone like Harvey Weinstein is really fucked up.
So actually, that'll leave me. Umbra, how are you going to move forward?
I've always been a trusting person. Hell, that's, I got invited to this group as a friend from a friend of Zach's. I got put into the group, and I hung around with him, and I thought, I like everyone else here, I pretty much am just going to be copying what they're saying. I bought into a lot of his spiel. I forgave a lot of the things he said because, like Solar said, I thought they were just small, isolated incidents. And when people came forth trying to damage him, I thought, I got this person who I don't really know, and I got a person who I've known and who has been kind to me and good to me for 3 years. Who am I going to trust? And unfortunately, I chose wrong. So I got to start opening my mind more to possible situations that are going on with people that I trust. That I even said earlier, there's always two sides of the story, and clearly I wasn't listening to the other side, and that was really stupid of me. I didn't practice what I preached, and I think I'm going to go ahead with that knowledge to really open up and listen more to, what people had to say. And my heart goes out to all those other people that are hurting, because I don't want to say I'm right there with you, but I mean, we're there for everyone.
Irish, what about you?
Well, I mean, everybody else pretty much said what I already think. I mean, I guess I would say that we got to learn from these mistakes, but that when I say that, I can't help but think that's kind of taking it lightly. And this isn't the kind of thing you take lightly, but I mean, the only way you can move is forward. Take things as they come, I guess. I mean, I got nothing new to add.
I guess that leaves me then as a content creator who's worked with Toon in many projects. Where do I go from here? Well, with myself, I had to decide: do I remove all the videos that I've worked on because Toon Critic is in them, and I feel like disgusted every time he opens his mouth? Or do I leave them up because they're funny regardless if he's in there? So I decided at least with my content, there's only two videos I'm going to keep up. One is the first ever massive collaboration I did, which was Question Girls: A Balanced Perspective, because I'm very proud of that work. And the other is #Squash Match. Now, when we first did that, it was more of following the cartoon saga of proving that there is a weakness to Toon's other half. Now what it symbolizes is I'm not dealing any more of his bullshit. And that's why I hope to go out forward as a content creator. Move on. I have better things on the horizon, and I extend my hand of condolences to all of his victims. And I know, and unfortunately, I know one personally, and I won't say their name. And now I think that we have that squared away. We are open to questions from the audience. We are going to try and do our best to answer as many questions as possible, because I know a lot of people have things to do later. So
How long do you want to keep this open for?
I'm willing to go up till 6.
Okay.
Okay, so
Has he been arrested? No. If he has,
No.
there's been no concrete proof of it.
No.
I can confirm that he is still attempting to reach out to different people to try and worm his way back into people's good graces. He has not been arrested yet.
Have y'all heard from Aeon? We have been hearing from him recently. He's busy with a job right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Chambers of My Heart. We mentioned this earlier. Just trying to scroll up. How come this took so long to come out? Was it? It was talked about a little bit earlier in the stream. Basically, we were trying to get all the information as calmly and professionally as possible, and not basically jump to conclusions, essentially.
Yeah. And I do want to clarify, I think I saw a question earlier about the information. We did not intend for the information to become public because the victim herself didn't want it to be a circus. No one wanted it to be a giant thing. We were going to report it and let the authorities handle it, but we did so knowing that it probably would eventually leak.
Mhm.
We
just
just weren't expecting it to leak like
As
the
for
day after.
if we do know who leaked it, we don't know, and we are not pursuing action against those who did leak it right now because at this point, one, it's too late, and two, we don't need more dividing in the community.
Yeah, honestly, at this point I don't care who the leak is. Obviously, they did it thinking that it was for the best, and I can't blame them for that.
Mhm.
So whoever it is, it's whatever.
Okay. Oh, there actually is a good question. Where would I Ghost of Time 1? Where would I donate to support those who have fallen victim to his wiles? There, British Ninja did a recent charity stream. I forgot the name of the charity, but I will post a link to it after this is up. It basically helps those suffering who are basically victims of crimes like this. I forgot the name. I do forget the name of the charity that he did a stream of. If you want to donate to them, just follow. Yes. Oh, yes. The charity for missing and exploited children.
There's nothing for the specific victims themselves.
No. But if you do want to donate to something pertaining to this, donate to that. I'll post a link to. I'll post a donate link in the description after the stream is done.
For Jack 114, shouldn't people have the right to know? Ask security just in case Zach pulled it again. Well, that's why we contacted the authorities. We don't,
as well as convention heads and security. And all that.
basically the places where he would be able to go publicly to do these kind of things again. The thing is, again, what Kishi said, we didn't intend to go this publicly because the victim wanted to remain silent about this, and she didn't want what's happening now, which is it blowing out of proportion and accusations flying everywhere and people making assumptions.
But we did inform pretty much all of the major conventions of what was going on so that he would not be welcome to those conventions. And we were also informing anyone that he had contact with about it. And we were just kind of going to go that route.
As for future projects, the big ones being Brony D&D and Team Fortress 2.
Don't forget the Wrestling League.
Well, that's done.
That's done.
Okay.
Because he was pretty much hard. But the stuff that we have the stuff that we have backlogs for, there's not a lot we can do in terms of some of those stuff because they are recorded. But we are we are going to be I'm not going to be doing it. Well, unfortunately, I can't do anything. But if you want to find out a little bit more, I think Josh posted something on his Tumblr about moving forward, especially with the bigger projects.
Why do all the responses seem all very scripted and very similar with their message concerning the magnitude? This was their coordinated response plan, and if so, why? No, there was not a coordinated response. After everything leaked out, every one of us began to create our own statements. We wanted to almost everyone who wrote a statement wrote it out and then recorded voices over their. Yes, they scripted their statement. However, they wanted to make sure that what they said was both professional and in the right mind. They didn't want to speak on an emotional ad lib level because that only leads to more trouble.
Not to mention, when all of this was going down, we encouraged people to, when the leak happened, we encouraged people to be as transparent as possible. So when people are trying to stay as truthful as they can, answers are going to sound similar. There's not going to be much deviation in answers when people are saying the truth as
you can
much
only
as
tell
they
the
can
same
remember.
story in so many different ways.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically.
There is this one guy I see here named Magic Mike asking if this didn't get leaked, how long until people would have made statements. Now, anyone in this room, feel free to correct me, but I believe the plan was alert the authorities when their investigation was done and he was taken into custody. Then they would have made statements.
I think actually it was going to be more along the lines of this. After the whole incident after the whole call with Toon went down, obviously Dr. Wolf and the rest had been informed. We essentially left when people were going to make their own statements up to them. I think for the most part, people were going to wait until Wolf made his own statement before they made theirs. But we more or less just left it up to each individual when they were going to make their own statements, whether it be through a video or through Twitter or not at all. We just kind of left it up to each individual.
As for someone who asks, give me a sec, where'd it go? If their signs were there, why did it take so long? It's because, again, we discussed this earlier. Kichi again put it the best. We all kind of we've explained this before. He's a master manipulator, and we all bought into his manipulation, and we didn't see it, and and that's just there was nothing we really could do, unfortunately.
Yeah, in term, are they asking about like what were they asking?
If because I believe you talked about earlier, that there were signs that he was an asshole. I feel like both you and Solar said that, and that why we didn't do anything or investigate further. I think that was because he was just very good at manipulating us and making us believe that he was a good person. And
well, the thing is, whenever Toon messed up in the past, it's not like no one said anything. There were many instances where I myself dragged Toon into a call in Limbo, a different Skype group, and screamed him down for something. There were instances where FNGR put him on his How Not to Brony videos, which is partly why whenever people ask me about FNGR, I say, well, the things you see on there are what happens after things that are handled privately don't work. That's why I support it. So it's just kind of, there were many instances that were handled, or many situations that seemed like they were handled because the hurt party seemed to be okay. So that's pretty much where all we did with it.
Why did you guys put up with him for doing this for so long without telling anyone? I think
Basically, we didn't know.
For the people that were involved, like I sorry, I have to name names. Patchwork, a couple other people that wish to not be named. We didn't know what was going on, and if they ever did tell us, then Zach did a really good job of silencing it, because I personally never heard about any of this until Kichi and British told me everything, and like you said, the floodgates opened and the story spilled out, and my whole even my world was turned upside down on the viewpoint of him. So
some of us should have seen the signs, but we just dismissed it as just dumb behavior. We didn't realize how big the situation was.
And that's really the crux of it. While there were warning signs and all this stuff, the fact of the matter is we didn't see them. That we are not perfect. We made a misjudgment of character.
And I will entirely take any blame about that. So
yeah.
That's pretty much the end of it. There's no real excuse other than I misjudged someone's character and bought into their con.
Yep.
That's pretty much the end of it.
Does anyone know how long his behavior has been going on for?
Long time. Apparently,
according to all the stories that are pouring out, a long time.
Years.
Yeah.
And the thing is, people need to understand that this incident, it's not like only the TF2 people knew, or only a few select people knew. Everyone we have spoken to has had some incident with Toon Critic that they more or less just kept to themselves because they assumed it was an isolated incident. And the few that did come to light, we addressed when it happened, and eventually it sort of faded away.
What about victims' videos regarding them telling you about that he's been doing this since 2006? I think that he would be a teenager back then. That's a little stretching him.
As far as we know, the stuff that happened prior to, I want to say 2010, because I'm gonna do the cutoff date, like when the show first started. We don't know if those are feasible or not, but But if they are true, we'll take them with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I'll put it this way. I have no idea about Toon's past before I met him a couple of years ago. I haven't heard stories about really what he was like beforehand, more or less. So I would not be surprised if those stories were true, but I can't confirm or deny any of it because I wasn't there.
Okay. Oh, it's actually, here's an interesting question from Zalden. If we did actually end up seeing him at any convention, what the first thing we would do is contact Con Security because he should not be there.
And I encourage all of you to do the same.
Personally, I would do that, and I would also just ignore him. Like, I would just literally turn my back on him.
Mm-hmm. Yep. If you see him at a con, walk away and head straight to Con Security. Let him know he's there.
Have any of you regretted what you did? If you mean, getting the turning him in and stuff and turning your backs on him?
No,
Hell no.
Absolutely not.
No.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Okay. I see a Patchwork. Yeah. We forgive you.
It's okay. The thing is, I apologize if I called you out, and I probably did, because if I'm going to look back on this recording, I probably have made mistakes in it with myself. But we're not trying to blame. We're not. I even said this to friends in my group. We don't want to shift the blame around. We're trying to come together as a community. The reason why we're doing this is to be transparent and to rather than shift it away from us, to, in a sense, keep our arms open and bring the community in together to understand that this thing happened and we're gonna only get stronger because of it.
Mm-hmm. For answering DCP, do we think our careers are in jeopardy? No. This is it's a major speed bump, but we're gonna maintain control of our own vehicles.
Yeah.
We'll be fine.
In my case, my career is not YouTube, so no, not at all.
Yeah, like
I doubt this will hurt me at all because I have no career.
Yes, same here, honestly.
Okay.
We will be fine. It's going to be a long, arduous healing process, but I think a lot of the Brony reviewer and analysis community will pull through.
Are you guys afraid Toon may do something worse? No. I think his career. First off, his career is dead. Second, he had no job. The only source of income was his Patreon and donations. So he's got nothing.
Look out for Toon Critic in a gas station, people.
Gotta watch out for the. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Okay. I'm just looking at other questions. Okay, question from Bucky. How are the victims holding up given the circumstances? We don't. Well, the ones that we know personally, some are getting better. The others we don't know. Again, a lot of us don't have a lot of contact with like a lot of these victims.
Out.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we apologize for that. And if you guys do want to talk to us about it and hear more of what we know about everything, I'm speaking for myself. I don't know if anyone else agrees. We're open to hearing and talking with you.
Yes, of course. Once the video is up, if you want to have, I won't. Basically, once this video goes up and allow the comments to come in, I'll make sure there is no vile being spewed on this, because we want to make sure this is taken 100% seriously.
Mm-hmm. This is a very serious situation.
Okay.
Yep.
Here's one. In addition to charity and supporting other victims, and what other ways do you suppose we can be supportive and spread positivity in these times? Just do good.
Just don't be a douche.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Do whatever you think is. Do what's ever not for the greater good, but what is just.
Yeah.
There was one guy here. Let me see. Jojo Fanatic 85 asked a good question. What are we gonna do to make sure this kind of thing doesn't happen again? Well, one thing, I mean, using hindsight, and I hate to be that guy to say we're using hindsight here because everybody's got hindsight's 2020.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I guess the best we could do is if we hear a rumor or something of like scandalous, unacceptable behavior coming from someone we know, like research it, ask questions, get both sides of the story,
Mhm.
dig as far as you think you need to. And if someone is doing something wrong, hold them accountable, whether it is sitting them down and making sure they fix their shit or going to the police. I mean, it doesn't really feel like the best complete answer, if you ask me. I mean, I don't know what else to say, but it's all we can do.
Yeah, or
Learn from
disassociate.
past mistakes and apply that stuff to future.
Hmm.
Someone else asked, a lot of people have been villainized for attempting to call Tune out on its behavior in the past, myself included. This is from someone else. How will you go about rectifying that? Well, we're not trying to start up this kind of stuff. And again, there's a lot to go into that, and I don't know if that can be answered properly.
Yeah, if anything, it's a case by case basis. The only thing we can promise to do is look at what people come to us with and come to our own conclusions as best we can. We're not perfect. We're not going to be able to automatically know who's in the right and who's in the wrong.
Yeah.
All we can do is say we're going to try and see the warning signs in people in the future.
If Tune creates a new account on social media and tries to come after you guys, what will you do?
The exact same thing.
Yeah.
The exact same thing. Report him to call him out for his abusive behavior, or easy thing. There's a that everyone should take into account if he does try and contact you. Use the block or use the block function on social media.
Maybe tell people, hey, this is a new Toon Critic account. Be careful.
Here's a good question.
Mhm.
Will there be a possibility that this will spread through social media and opens to the public? If so, that people outside the community. If so, what do you think might be the result?
I mean, I think it already kind of has.
Well,
There's always that possibility.
Well,
Yeah.
as far as social media spreading it outwards to like other sources, it's a possibility, but we don't know what's going to happen in terms of that. Like if this does, like the most I could see this happening is it breaks local news, but nothing really major.
Nothing too
I mean,
major, yeah.
you're talking. I hate, and again, I'm sorry, I just have to say this. You're talking about an online fandom on a children's cartoon. I doubt national news is going to report about something like this unless it was someone really high up in the.
Yeah, not to mention, like, remember, people, Toon Critic was not exactly the hugest YouTuber in the community. He
Yeah.
was just the most publicly present.
Mm-hmm.
And with and I think with that said, I think we pretty much answered a lot of
Major questions.
a lot of these questions. If you have any other things pertain to us, once this video once the video stops being live streamed, you can ask questions via there for anything. If you have any other advice, you can always contact us through DeviantArt or DeviantArt Twitter, or just send us a message on YouTube.
Will you guys stream about this again? No, we're just doing this once. And if you wish to ask questions, you can leave it in the comments. And I myself will take questions on Twitter. Obviously, please be respectful. But
I will. And after this I will eventually come out with a video. This is me being like 100% professional. I will actually give a statement tomorrow about my own personal experiences. This is me being the professional in this type of situation, trying to be the voice of reason, the moderator of this. Tomorrow you won't see that. You will definitely see a more emotional side to my experiences with this issue. So so that I say thank you everyone who spread this video around. I don't think this is probably the most follow watchers I've had on any live on. I think it's probably on a live stream. Thank you, Solar, Umbra, Kichi, and Irish for coming out and helping me out with this.
Yeah, no problem, man.
And with that said, we will end the broadcast here.
One more thing.
Yes.
If anyone here is gonna like take anything from this, like I see a lot of people in the comments and all giving support to everyone here, and that's cool. That's cool. That's great. Like, don't forget, like as you guys said earlier, don't forget to give some help to the victims.
Yes.
Hear their
Go
voices.
to the people that were more like that
Yeah.
were physically
They need it most.
victimized
Mhm.
because they matter a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll be
And-
fine. Go help them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we've had almost 3 weeks to deal with this. We I think at this point
We've gotten over the worst
mentally
of
move
it.
on. Yeah.
Mhm. All right, and with that said, this is the Voice of Reason with Irish John, Kichi, Umbra, and Solar Flare, and we all wish you to have a very lovely day.
Mhm.
Bye.